Hey folks, welcome to the Almond Landscape YouTube channel. We're gonna talk about how to operate mini excavator today. There are different levels of calling yourself an operator. I struggle to call myself an operator, but I can run the machine and dig holes with it. What we're gonna talk about is basics of turning it on, getting it going, maybe scooping, and some basic safety things, stuff like that. A few basic elements of an excavator: boom, stick, thumb, bucket, your blade, swivel king post here, so it really allows you some better access. Ideally, when you're digging, you don't want to dig over what's called your final drives, which is these little guys right here. They're a fortune to fix, so you don't want to snag the bucket on them or the insides or whatever. Most of these are going to be diesel, about 1 billion grease points. You can tell we actually grease a lot, but we don't keep anything clean. Hopefully with the new facility here, that will be a thing moving forward. So with that being said, entering the cab, basic key system. The modern ones are getting fancier and fancier. Generally, they're not going to start with your control arm down, so this has got to be up. Usually there's a lever here of some kind. We're going to keep that up. We're going to turn our machine on. Some of them are going to have a password and all that kind of stuff, so you obviously got to know the proper thing there. So we're going to turn this thing on. Here we go. Want to start it at an idle, get comfortable with things. We're gonna take this, it's a safety feature really, but we're gonna engage that and turn it on. Our machine is live now, so you wanna be really careful, because if you bump the excavator, you bump these controls, you stand a chance of smashing somebody's toes or worse, whatever. Also, there's two different control patterns on these things, and you wanna make sure it is in a control pattern that you're comfortable with. I myself prefer the, we used to call them John Deere controls. We're going to get our bucket up off the ground, and again, the control patterns are going to vary. Like in this setup here, my swivel is my left control, and then bucket is my right control. But these are called pilot controls, joysticks, whatever, and it's gonna dictate how this machine reacts. Anytime we're transporting or walking the machine anywhere, we want to keep our bucket and everything low. Ideally stretch, kind of just compact in here. We're gonna want to bring our blade up with our blade lever here. Now, when you're learning to run these things, you're generally probably gonna track with your hands like this. But as you get better, you learn to use your feet, because it's really handy, because then you can take your hands, you have your hands free to operate and walk the machine around. So as you get better, you learn to walk with your feet. We'll go outside and dig a hole. On this Caterpillar, we've got a dial back here for the throttle. Make sure that we're allowing these things to get up to a safe operating temperature, so we're not straining the engine or the hydraulics. And there's a lot of fluids running through this thing, so we want to make sure that we're as good on our machines as we can. You can see we got a little bit of slop there in that bucket like that. We've had some employees over the year that pry on these things pretty hard, and that stinks, but it is what it is. I'm no master operator. That's just not what I want to claim, but what we're going to do is go out here and dig a hole, or dig a little bit. We'll see what we get into. For safety's sake, when you're first starting, we're going to want to put our blade down. That'll help give you some stability. You might actually dig the opposite way with your blade behind you if you need to get a lot of down pressure to dig. We've got a big smooth bucket on here, which is nice when your soils are good, but what you run into, or what we like about that, is when you're digging out the patios and stuff, you get that nice glaze finish and not a bunch of ripped up stuff like with the teeth or whatever. So a few things when you get out on the edge like this, we're going to throttle down a little bit, especially the big heavy bucket on there, the machine starts to get a little tippy, right? So you want to be really, really careful. And if you're not comfortable doing this stuff, don't rent the machinery, don't use it. Or just make sure you've got somebody here that knows what they're doing, right? To kind of guide you. But we're going to extend out, we're going to start peeling back, and it just takes a combination of the controls, which you'll have to learn over the time. You want to avoid packing your bucket full, because you want to avoid where it's packing that soil into the bucket, because then it just crams in the corners and gives you a hard time. We got our buggy in position here, but be it a dump truck or whatever, we want to be careful when you're getting out over the side here Because again, a full scoop of soil like that, you know, you're starting to get heavy on that side of the machine, right? So you want to be real careful when you're doing that. So we're going to dump it in there, shake it out. Now ideally we don't want to curl the bucket back up or anything like that. You want to limit your movement as much as you can. So we're going to leave the bucket out like that so we can just plow right into our next up. Now I would normally probably articulate this thing a little bit here to get us into whatever's going on, but now what I am going to do is stay out of my gravel there a little bit. But we just start curling the bucket up as we come with us. And I'm going too deep there, so again, total rookie move. But we got a reasonable bucket there. But you really ideally want them to be heaping as best you can. Alright, so we're going to scoop up no tighter than we have to keep our load. Put that in here. There we go. I don't know if this makes sense to do on the right hand now, but again, we're just gonna make small little maneuvers here. So as we tidy up there, so that's where a tilt rotator attachment becomes really nice, because you can just angle this thing 5 ways from Friday to get into what you want to get into and snag it. So then there, we're gonna reach over into here, tidy up, get our soil in there. Awesome. Again, more advanced level videos are gonna show you, you know, how to load out dump trucks and stuff. Diesel and Iron's a good page for that. I've enjoyed their page so far. But it just takes seat time, and you're just not gonna get any better until you just get more and more seat time and just dig and dig and dig. So it's rewarding, it's enjoyable work. I love running this thing. Basic things like safety, watch when you get over the side of your machine like that, because I'll show you here, because you're not going to be as stable when you're side boom like that, and you're going to be tippier, right? So you really want to watch you know, when you're at height and all that kind of stuff, so you want to watch that. We got a video loading out spoils pile. That's pretty decent. There's a lot of stuff in there that I learned from my buddy AJ about better positioning in my excavator and all that kind of stuff. But one other thing, it's super important. If you're new to operating a machine, especially if you're new or on sketchy ground, or you should just in general, but it's really important to wear your seatbelt in these things, because if you start messing up and screwing around, getting where this thing starts, you know, it starts bucking, or you make a bad call, like a car accident tries to throw you out of this machine, and let's say this window in the cab is up, which most of them, by the way, will do this. If it's enclosed cab, these windows come up like this. But if you've got that window open, you stand a chance of getting thrown out of this machine, and then your body's gonna land on these sticks, and God knows what happens to you after that. Make sure you're doing all the safe stuff, not putting yourself in positions and situations, job sites and stuff like that you shouldn't be. So on the blade operation, there's a couple other things here too. There's your blade, right, which you can use to do some grading and backfilling and stuff like that. It also has a float option, which if you dump it like that, you hit hard, you hear it click. Then no matter what you do with the excavator, if we lift ourselves up, the blade will adjust. That will help you there. There's also a high and low gear. It depends on the excavator, but we now have the rabbit speed engaged for your transport or your walking, and then back to turtle for that. But anytime you gotta like stand up to look outside of the machine or anything, just go ahead and disengage this. That way you don't bump this and drive over someone, or hit that and crash it into the side of the building or whatever. If you're gonna get up and do this kind of stuff, make sure this thing is disengaged, and that way your controls aren't engaged that way, and it's just gonna be safer for everybody. So big rule of thumb at our place is, like, if somebody's down there working and you're waiting on them to hand shovel something, we keep our hands out and open like this. So it's just dead obvious if you glance up that they don't have any intent on moving the controls or anything like that. So we like to see our guys, when they're doing this kind of stuff, put their hands out in the open like this, so that we know that they're not going to move the machine when somebody's not expecting it. With that said, on off, just like other stuff, we're going to kick on our security stuff there, and good to go. So let us know what we missed, other little things here in the comments, so we can all help each other out and remind me what I did miss and all that stuff. So folks from Almond Landscape HQ, thanks for following.